Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. On today's show, it's Fly by the Seat of Our Pants Friday. It's going to be interesting. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Coming up next on Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. It's Stacey Gotsoulias, joined by Abby Mastracco. Welcome to Locked On Yankees. It's the Friday show, and as I joked about in the opening, or the cold open,
Very
we're flying.
cold.
Yeah, actually, literally.
Very cold.
Yeah. We're flying by the seat of our pants today because there's stuff going on, but not a lot of stuff going on.
Baseball fans, I have failed you this week. I have been so deep into reporting these like 4 major hockey stories. They're 4 long stories too. Like my Ovechkin story next week's gonna be like 3,000 words. So I've had to do so many interviews and transcribe, and like I've watched a few games this week. Like I have the Kings game on because Drew Doughty is playing in his 1,000th game, and I've covered Drew Doughty for a little bit in LA. But like this is the time of year where baseball to me is like, it's on my radar, but it's like such a small part of my radar. Yeah. And I've been doing this for years. Look, I've been covering hockey and baseball since 2012. And even back then I was covering college football too. So like I had to pay attention to a lot. There will come a time where my attention shifts 50-50. That's usually around the start of spring training. And then there's like kind of a lull, and I can get deep into the hockey trade deadline. And then I can go opening day, my attention swings back to baseball. There will come a time where my attention is 50-50 hockey, baseball. Unfortunately, this is not that week. And like, there's just not a lot going on anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry, baseball fans. I have failed you. And there may be some like incoherent ramblings from me today. And I am going to apologize in advance.
I should probably do that every day when I do a show because I'm always incoherently babbling. Before we get into that, though,
Okay, yes.
You can listen to us in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher. You can watch us on YouTube. Please subscribe. The closer we get to 1,000, the better it is. And if you have a smart device, tell it to play Locked On Yankees. Our smart device has been going off all day because every time there's some sort of weather alert, it doesn't even say anything. It just makes a noise. And that's how we know that there's a new updated something happening in the weather. And if you're in New York, you know that there's a possibility. We were joking about this before we started recording. The range for snow was 2 to 20 inches.
It's a big range.
Which means it's either going to be a minor inconvenience for you or things are going to be shut down for 3 days. They don't know. No one knows. No,
who's to say? Who is to say?
I mean, I would love to be a meteorologist, really. I mean, that must be it's as good a job as being a major league umpire. Because you can be just as wrong.
The major league strike zone, a fair catch in football, a goalie interference in hockey, and the weather. They are just theoretical constructs.
Yes.
We all get to interpret it to our own liking.
Yeah. One thing I did want to discuss, we do have some stuff. The Hall of Fame stuff. I had to babble about this by myself the other day, and I didn't do a very good job because my mind was all over the place, and I was trying to not be a jerk about things, which is hard for me if you know me personally. But anyway.
It's easy for me. I'm so like conflict averse. I'm so conflict averse. Like there'll be times in scrums where like, of course, if there's an owner who's like, he's just sort of, if there's a very controversial move that is made and an owner or a GM is just sort of like downplaying it and saying like, well, I said I said to fire him, or he just wasn't getting the job done. That's my favorite line. He just wasn't getting the job. I'm not afraid to press and say, in what ways was he not getting the job done? Why did you trade your best player? Why did you fire your GM out of nowhere? Why wasn't he getting the job done? What led to that? And they'll push back on me and they'll be like, because I said so. Because, owners tend to just, some of them stay out of the spotlight and they're only there when they're the bad guy. And some of them really enjoy being the bad guy. And some of them just really want you to like take what they say at face value. But like me as a reporter, it's my job to press. So I'm not afraid to press in that situation, but otherwise, like, I'm so conflict diverse. Like sometimes there's reporters that don't like each other and they start to like yell at each other on deadline. And I'm just like, hi guys, let's all be friends. I'm so conflict diverse. Like
that must be an interesting dynamic though, to be witness to reporters having that sort of a thing.
Well, there's lots of media feuds. It's kind of fun. There's all, and I mean, at the end of the day, most of us are friends because we spend so much time. We spend like late nights together, flight delays together. But there's always some that just don't get along. The best is when they're like at the same paper too. When they're actually like beat partners, or like it's like a columnist and like a reporter who just absolutely don't like it, but they have to pretend like they do. And inevitably, there's like a fight during a playoff series or something. It's very entertaining to the rest of us involved. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that's entertained by that. But, people have some very strong reactions right now to some of the Hall of Fame stuff. And I'm just sitting here like, well, I see both arguments.
Me too.
Both arguments.
Yeah, I do too. It's, I was trying to explain that the other day because I do see both arguments. I just find it, as I said before we started recording, I was saying to Abby that I found it interesting that some writers that I didn't expect to be upset, I think they were more upset about Bonds and Clemens not making it than they were about Ortiz making it, but they still kind of made it a point to show the differences between Clemens and Bonds, where they're more like here. And not that Ortiz is a bad player. He's not, obviously. It's one of the best DHs of all time, if not the best.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who make the argument that DH is sort of a lesser position.
Well, it took Edgar Martinez how long?
It's a very important position though, because it's in the A. Look, we're all going to have, both leagues are going to have a DH soon. It's usually your best hitter, or
unless you're the Yankees and you need to rest people and you put them in as DH.
Ideally, it's your best hitter. Ideally, but there are some teams that just it's a positionless guy, or it's a guy who's a liability on defense and he's a good hitter, but maybe not your best hitter. Ortiz was the best hitter in the lineup on most days. He was the most feared hitter in the lineup on most days. But I see all of the arguments here. Yeah. And I was talking to an agent who said, when you make it to the Hall of Fame as somebody who failed a drug test, or like the Bonds, Clemens, and even Ortiz, because he was named in the Mitchell report, right? It cheats the people who made it there legitimately. Now, the other people are starting to warm to like taking the morality out of it. This is an entertainment thing at the end of the day. And what Bonds, Clemens accomplished was historic, and that should be honored as well, or that should be, accounted for. Put them in the Hall of Fame in, I don't know, like, the Astros section or whatever.
Right. I always joked about that. There should be a steroid room. Not a room, but like a steroid, like it's an era. It happened. And Bud Selig is in the Hall of Fame, and he turned a blind eye to that stuff until, suddenly it was important for him to do something about it. But he knew. Come on. Everyone knew.
The other thing is that, look, it was McGuire and Sosa that sort of brought baseball back from the dead after the labor stoppage. Baseball really suffered, and that home run chase brought a lot of excitement and a lot of fans back to the game, and also created new fans. And you've heard me say this on this podcast a million times. Every sport continually needs to find new fans, despite the fact that baseball and hockey, the two sports I cover, shoot themselves in the foot all the time when it comes to that and say, no, our game is perfect. It doesn't need changing. And if you haven't been a fan since the beginning, we don't want you. Well, the fans since the beginning are going to die at some point. So we need new ones constantly. It's a marketability thing. The Sosa McGuire chase brought so many new fans to the sport and helped bring back the fans that were mad at baseball. And the same can be said for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. Growing up in Northern California, I saw people who were sort of like meh on baseball all of a sudden were in 2002, especially when the Giants went to the World Series, they were into it. Bonds was their guy. They didn't care that he was an asshole. It was either you were the team Bonds or team Kent.
Yeah.
I saw this all through high school. That was my sophomore year of high school. Middle school, I remember it a lot too. It was like Barry Bonds helped revitalize baseball in Northern California.
He really did. He
The
did.
Moneyball A's were great, but they didn't have the same reach as the Giants. It was all eyes were on Bonds all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's how it was whenever Roger Clemens pitched every 5 days out here. There were a lot of teenagers who made that appointment viewing, and they become baseball fans, lifelong baseball fans as a result. So there's something to be said for both sides of the argument. And I hate that I don't know. This is why I'm not a columnist. This is why I'm a reporter. I do have to editorialize sometimes, but I'm much better at doing that with hockey because sometimes hockey makes me so mad as let's just evolve. Come on, let's just evolve already. And I the same, baseball makes me angry in the same way, but I'm out there talking to players, agents, executives, and I hear all of these arguments and I think, okay, well, yeah, you're making a good point and you're making a good point too. And I have yet to find one that I'm just I'm fully on team, no morality. I'm fully on team asterisk. I'm fully on team. Don't let the steroid era guys in. Right. I don't know, but it was an era in baseball that we can't just say it didn't happen.
Yeah.
We can't just say it didn't happen because it did.
Right. And
there are records that are still in place from that era.
Mm-hmm.
The Mitchell Report was a thing. You can't just expunge that from the record. What are we doing if we're just trying to say oh yeah, baseball just skipped a whole decade?
Mm-hmm.
That those games
even more than that, yeah.
It happened. We have to acknowledge that it happened. So maybe that's the idea is create an entire steroid era display, or maybe not wing, I don't know, but a whole steroid era display. I guess that's the right word, in the Hall of Fame, and put Bonds, Clemens, even Ortiz in that. Anybody who's named in the Mitchell Report, or who anybody associated with that era that we can, the biogenesis guys too. Oh man,
yeah, there's
a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Cruz was a biogenesis guy, wasn't he?
Yeah. Maybe these guys would have been better off if they ate some Built Bars.
Build you up.
Because Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It's even better than a candy bar, and it makes you stick to your New Year's resolutions, because we're still talking about those, even though we're almost in February. You want to eat healthy, but it gets boring, and by week 3, well, we're now in week 4, you might be thinking it's just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Well, Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate. They're only 130 calories. They have 4 grams of sugar, which compared to a candy bar that has 240 calories and 30 grams of sugar, the choice is easy. And there are so many flavors to choose from. My favorite, obviously, mint brownie, but peanut butter brownie is also good. And I'm going to mention that. And salted caramel. I'm a very chocolatey person. I'm not into the fruity ones. Sully likes raspberry. And so does Jason Burke of Locked On A's. We discuss Built Bars in our group DMs, people. We're totally into them. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. And when you go to Built.com, you can check out their new flavors, their limited time flavors, and they have second chance flavors that come out, and it's all different deals weekly. So again, go to Built.com, use our promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off at Built.com. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Now, we were talking about this also. Next year, there's going to be a fun conundrum for Hall of Fame voters when Carlos Beltran is eligible. This might be the first time that someone involved in the Houston sign stealing thing might actually see something substantial happen. And yes, I know that a couple of people were suspended, but they were welcomed back with open arms. Cora's butt was kissed all season last year, almost as if nothing happened. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious to see the writers who are so anti Bonds Clemens. Are they also going to say Carlos Beltran does not have a place in the Hall of Fame?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to vote along those same lines? Now, we've also seen a lot of people recently change their minds, and that's okay too.
Sure.
Honestly, you can, as long as you're able to, because these ballots are public, or at least they should be. I'm a big fan of making ballots public. When you're, as a writer who does vote on awards, I have voted for Cy Young Rookie of the Year. I vote in the NHL awards every year. The ballots are public, or they should be made public, for some accountability.
Sure.
And I have seen writers tweet their ballots and say, you know what? I was not going to ever vote in Bonds or Clemens. Here's why I have changed my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to get their point of view, why they changed their mind. And I think it's okay to sort of learn, grow, all the cliche things that we talk about from 2020 to 2022.
Yeah.
And your thinking evolves and you look at it a different way than maybe you looked at it a few years ago. But I just want to know, I'm curious as to the people who changed their minds about Bonds Clemens. How are they going to approach this with Carlos Beltran? Are they going to take the same hard line that they took for a couple of years with the other two? I mean, is it equivalent? Can we say that it's I don't know.
Can we? Well,
we
can't really compare it to the Pete Rose thing either.
People do say that steroids is cheating. Like it is. Yeah, I guess it is. It's an unfair playing field.
Sure. But you still have to hit, like you can't just take steroids and think you're going to hit. Because I bring this up all the time. Jeremy Giambi, Jason Giambi. They both did it. One hit a lot better than the other one.
Here's the thing though. Jason Giambi, the more successful Giambi, he went to Long Beach State. Jeremy went to Cal State Fullerton. There's your answer.
Yeah. There's I don't know if this is interesting. It's interesting, this whole Beltran thing, because of the whole sign stealing thing. And, the fact that he hasn't been welcomed back to baseball yet. There was a report that they were thinking about maybe bringing him to the booth for Yes. Yeah. That came out last week. That would be interesting. I really wished, I don't have anything against Carlos Beltran. The cheating thing is annoying, obviously. And, but I feel like Cora got a second chance. Hinch got a second chance. The players, nothing really happened to them. And I think he deserves a second chance. And I kind of wanted the Yankees to hire him to be part of the coaching staff. They didn't do that. Maybe they will sometime down the line when things kind of...
Well, I think the problem is that, Cora got a set. The ringleaders were Cora and Beltran, according to the investigation. Yeah, those were the two ringleaders. But who benefited from it? Because Cora wasn't playing, Beltran was playing.
Right. True.
That's sort of the crux of it.
Mm-hmm.
And AJ Hinch apparently did not approve of it, but he destroyed some cameras. But he wasn't playing.
Yeah,
he was managing, and he did what he did. I guess that's a sort of like a tacit way of showing your disapproval for it. But the person who really benefited was Carlos Beltran. So I could see I still don't understand why everyone just sort of like forgot about Alex Cora and just he went back to Boston like nothing ever happened. But
my favorite thing this season, anytime it was a national game, it was like, usually like Yankees, Red Sox, and Cora was out for last year. Never mentioned why he was out for last year. He wasn't on vacation, Joe Buck. Why don't you just say why he wasn't there?
Well,
that drove me crazy. The whole season it
because
drove me nuts.
diehard fans will forgive that kind of stuff, like when it's your guy.
Right.
Fans up in Boston are like, yeah, he cheated, but he's our cheater now. Maybe not saying like, can he help us? But
don't think that Carlos Beltran didn't come up with something to try and help the Yankees cheat. And don't think that Alex Cora didn't try and come up with something to help the Red Sox cheat in 2018. Because Sully says it all the time. He's a big Red Sox fan. And he's like, I know my team cheated in 2018. He's like, they're just as bad as the Astros. I know they did. He's like,
this championship still made him happy.
Yeah. But he's like, I can't look at it the same now. He's like, but I know. I'm not stupid. He's like, what do you think? Cora just suddenly decided to cheat in Houston? He's like, something else was happening in Boston. So yeah, it's just funny. Hold on, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sitting on a bed and my leg was in a very strange position and I have bad knees.
I've had a small glass of wine because it's the end of a long day, long week, and it's not even over because tomorrow, Friday, by the time you hear this, tomorrow in New York is Henrik Lundqvist Day. His number 30 is getting retired at the Garden. So I was writing on him this week. So tomorrow, check that out on Bleacher Report. And
we can talk about that because, a lot of Yankee fans are Ranger fans,
exactly.
Allegiance thing.
I'll be at the Garden tomorrow. And these jersey retirement ceremonies, I've done a few of them. One time when I was in LA, I did Timu Solani's jersey retirement. And then a few days later, the Kings and Ducks played each other and Rob Blake's jersey was retired. And it was very interesting seeing how like the Kings and the Ducks were trying to like compete with each other to like one up each other with these jersey retirements.
That's funny.
So there's nobody to one up this time. And Henrik Lundqvist is in a category of his own. He's with the sixth. I literally just wrote these stats today. 6th most wins in the NHL.
Wow.
The most wins in Rangers history. The most wins for a European-born goalie in NHL history. And he's also just so respected.
I'm just kidding.
He's so respected for being such a good teammate. And, you really can't succeed in the NHL without a good goalie. You absolutely cannot. It's like, it's so crucial to have a goalie and to have a generational goalie like that. Like, man, New York fans, you guys have been spoiled with success of the Yankees in the 90s and even before that. And Henrik Lundqvist, you guys have been spoiled, man. I'm from Northern California. My dad's calling me every day to complain about the Sacramento Kings dysfunction. At least he's got the Giants. And as guys who listen to the podcast, you might have listened to my dad. He still roots for the Yankees a little bit, the upstate New Yorker in him. But Lundqvist, this should be a good ceremony tomorrow. He is just, he was a really interesting case study in goalies too. The way he played, he was like so upright. He played so deep in his crease. He was the king. What can I say? He was the king.
Now, speaking of hockey, if you want to bet on hockey, BetOnline would like to wish you a happy betting new year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. It's a new year. There's a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome to bonus on your first deposit. It's Friday. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started from football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, more baseball.
More baseball.
There
This
was a
is so tough
third.
in a lockout too, you know?
Yeah, there
Like
was a third thing though. What was the third thing that I was going to talk about? Damn.
normally this time of year, you like
We're gearing
we're
up for
getting
spring
some
training.
transactions.
Yeah.
We're gearing up for spring training. Yeah, I'd be like packing for spring training at this point. I usually show up around beginning of February. Like
Mhm.
I think like the first weekend of February. I don't like to get there too soon because you're there for a long time. At least
Yeah.
as a beat writer.
Yeah.
As a feature writer, it's a little bit different.
Well, let's talk about that. What's your experience like as a baseball writer? Like if
As a
someone
beat
who's
writer
actually
or as a feature writer? Because
like a
it's
beat,
two
what's it
different
like being a
things.
beat writer and having to really follow the team and
Well, it's easy to get bogged down in the minutia, and sometimes you lose the storytelling aspect of it. And the
mm,
storytelling is what I'm the best at because, like, sure, I can get into some analytics here and there, or some scouting. I tend to think of analytics as a tool in the toolbox to help illustrate why somebody is so impactful. And scouting is the same thing. I would say that there's a greater emphasis on scouting than on analytics, but both, there is no analytics without scouting, really. So you can sometimes you write 300 words on Aaron Judge rehabbing from an injury, and it's not that interesting, but it is something that fans want to know.
right.
And then there's times where you're literally spring training games. You are, especially like simulated games. You're literally counting the pitches that these pitchers throw on your own because they're not. There's no scorekeeper. It's a simulated game. So like, and I'm not good at math, and I'm dyslexic, and I get numbers like backwards.
Mm,
I lose count sometimes. I try and like tally them up so I can like keep more accurate track, but even then I'm trying to count and I'm just like all of us are trying to like double check our notes with each other to make sure that we have the right. I mean, even then, it doesn't really matter if you're 2 pitches off. It's a simulated game. Half the time, you know what though? Half the time, I don't know why I'm just now realizing this. I ask them or anybody asks them to like confirm how many pitches did you throw. So I don't know why I'm stressing out so much. Did he throw 33 or 34 pitches in this simulated? You ask them, and they know exactly how many pitches they throw.
right.
So I don't know why I stress myself out about it all the time. I don't like being wrong, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because if someone, God forbid, finds that out, you won't hear the end of it.
Exactly. Somebody on Twitter will be like, "Oh, it's 34 pitches, not 33. You're the worst."
Yeah.
So, I spring training can be quite a grind. You have to. You can find some cool stories, especially because you've got like the non-roster guys who like sometimes they're really cool, sometimes they're really interesting to talk to. But you hit a lull at some point where like March Madness is happening.
Sure.
Basketball and hockey, the NFL draft sometimes, it depends how early in the year it is, but like you start to see like your page numbers decline and because there's just so much other stuff going on that like fake games just don't matter.
Yeah.
And then the excitement ramps back up around opening day. And like, let me tell you, there's no energy like there is opening day. Like everyone's got a fighting chance. It just, the ballpark, you walk in and it looks pristine. And it's like, it's so easy to like romanticize opening day, and you absolutely should. It's a great day, like I remember when I was little, my dad would go to Giants opening day at Candlestick every year, and then later on Pac Bell Park when it was called Pac Bell Park, and he would go with all of my dad's high school friends are still his best friends to this day, and they still act like they're in high school when they get together, and they're in their 70s. So my dad would come home after all day with his buddies. He's like loud, rambunctious, like probably still kind of drunk, and he's acting like a kid. And they'd turn on the highlights of the game for my brother and I, and he would be like narrating it, like, "Oh, this is where Bonds hit a home run. Like he hit a home run off this guy, and look at it, it was a really great pitch." So excited, like about the day that he had and for like the coming season, because there's just something about opening day that it's like just such an energy jolt, and you get so excited about baseball all over again. And like, man, let's hope that opening day is well, it's supposed to be when March. It's supposed to be March this year.
Yeah, the
Let's just
very
hope
end.
that we're
Yeah.
not having opening day in like June, because it's just there's so many layers to it. You know, like we're kind of starting to thaw out in certain parts of the country. You get some sunshine, even though it might be kind of cold. You still get some sunshine, and it's like it gives you hope. It's like spring's coming, summer's coming.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a great rest of the year. There's just so much hope on opening day, and it's not the same if that day comes in like June
Or
or
like July, like in 2020.
No,
Yeah. Let's not do that again.
no.
Yeah, I had a streak. I had a 10-year streak of going to opening day. No, more than that. What am I talking about? I think I had a 13-year streak snapped. And because I had my Sunday tickets at Yankee Stadium, at the old stadium, they gave us opening day also, which was a nice consolation. And so I had opening day. The first year I had them, opening day, every Sunday game, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Old Timers Day. What was the fourth one? So it was a nice package. Loved being able to go to opening day every year. One year, after 9/11, so 2002. I went because I was working, so I worked the morning, took the train up, met my parents and my brother. We were going to go to the game. I had my NBC work bag, and they wouldn't let me in with it because it was too big. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my bag? I can't do anything with it. So I had another purse with me, and I was able to put all the contents of my purse, even the big NBC bag, into the smaller Kate Spade bag because it was like a perfect square. My dad folded up the NBC bag, put it like in his pants and shirt and jacket, and then we walked into the stadium with the bag, which was really bad. But I didn't have anything on me, like I just had my work bag, and I didn't even have a laptop. It wasn't like I had a laptop either. It was just a big bag. But that was the year that Yes started, and Cablevision wasn't carrying Yes because because Yankees used to be on MSG. Dolan was pissed. It was a whole thing. Mm-hmm. And aside from all the chanting because it was an opening day, there were also Cablevision sucks chants for basically the whole game. And it was hilarious because I was living in Staten Island at the time and I had Time Warner, so I had Yes. And my brother and father were here in Rockland and pissed that they couldn't watch any Yankee stuff because they had Cablevision. So that was a fun day. That was funny. And it was cool because it was the whole family. Like even my mom came to opening day. She wasn't really, she would sometimes
I've never been to a game with my mom, and I don't know that I want to.
Well, what's funny? My mother always jokes,
Sorry, Patty.
I don't pay attention to things and blah, blah, blah. 2009, we go to a wedding in June, and the Yankees were 3 games behind the Red Sox at this point. And my friend Amy, who grew up with me, was a Yankees fan, and her husband is a Red Sox fan from Rhode Island. So we're in the receiving line. My mom starts but she starts trash talking with the groom's father. And he's like, yeah, well, the Red Sox are in first. And she goes, yeah, well, you guys can party in June. We'll party in October. And my brother and I were like, where the hell did she get that from? And she's like, I learned it from you guys. So, yeah.
My mom thinks that they score touchdowns in football or in baseball. So,
yeah.
Hit home runs in basketball.
Yeah. No, my mom, she'll claim, oh, no, I don't pay attention to that stuff. And then she'll start heckling people. And she loved Andy Pettit. Loved Andy Pettit. And I've told this many times on the show. He's the guy I saw the most when he was pitching for the Yankees. I saw him the most in the playoffs. There were 2 or 3 separate years that I saw him 3 times in each playoff. It was unbelievable. So sometimes if he had a rough start or he wasn't quite, we'd call my mom and be like, Ma, you got to rub his butt like he did. Because she liked to rub his butt on the TV because she thought it was giving him good luck. And I'm like, did you do the thing? She's like, oh, no. She would turn the TV on. And when they showed him on the mound, she would, we're crazy, okay? My whole family is insane. You all should know this, but yeah, it was, it's just really
My-
funny that she
I
claims to
sometimes
not know.
I sometimes play a game with my mom called Name Any Active Athlete in Any Professional Sport. Just one. And she can't. Inevitably, she'll say Barry Bonds. So, in honor of the Hall of Fame week, you know what? I'll call my mom and I'll say, Mom, name an athlete, like any professional athlete. She'll say Barry Bonds, and I will accept that answer this week. I will accept that answer this week.
That's so funny. So everyone who's listening and everyone who's watching, especially if you're in the Northeast, anywhere in the snow, in the bullseye for wherever the snow is going, please be careful.
Stay
Make
safe.
sure you go out tomorrow and do your pre-blizzard shopping. I think we got all our pre-blizzard shopping done. I think we made sure we had water and all that stuff and cat
I
food.
did not. I
Yeah.
did not.
Yeah, you
I
better
gotta
do that.
I know I have to do that tomorrow before I go to the garden. I'm going to skip the morning skate because it's all
Yeah.
the way up near you in Westchester, and I'm in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
So
that's
it is I will not have time to go all the way to Terrytown, come back here, grocery shop, and then get to the garden. So
Oh yeah. I can get to Tarrytown from my house in 15 minutes. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's
No.
far.
you
So-
go watch, see who's skating. Let me know.
Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will. I'll be like, I'm
And-
here for Abby.
Yeah, and I will grocery shop.
And prepare
These are
for
the times where I wonder why I left California.
yeah,
didn't
and
have to
prepare
deal
for
with that
either
there.
2 inches or 20 inches because no one knows. Just like no one knows anything anymore. So that's it for this episode of Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Abby and I would like to remind you that you can listen to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can watch and subscribe to us on YouTube. Again, the closer we get to 1,000, the better it is. And when you get into your car, you can tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Bets. Now make your second listen of the day Locked On Bets your daily one-stop shop for all your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. One more thing, if you could be so kind, please rate the podcast and spread the word about this podcast to your fellow Yankee fans. We would really appreciate it. Enjoy your weekend. And again, if you're in the eye of the storm, stay safe, and we'll talk to you all next week.